Today's lesson is from the Daily ESL Online. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Priscilla.
How are you today, Bernard?
Today is a good day for me. I'm fine.
Fantastic. Today we're going to read about apartment renting.
Okay.
I'd like for you to first read the article, pay close attention to all of the words that are bold, and try to pronounce them as they are listed. When you're ready, you may start.
Okay. Last month, I decided to move out of my parents' place and start living on my own.
Okay, let's try to say on. Oh, I'm sorry. Own.
And start living on my own.
No, I can hear an H sound. Own. Own. Very good. Okay.
I searched in the newspaper for apartment listings and found a place not too far from my work.
Okay, the ED is not pronounced. Searched. It has a T sound at the end. Searched.
I searched in the newspaper.
Once again, searched.
I searched in the newspaper. The landlord showed me around the apartments, and because it treated my needs, I signed the rental agreement and paid a deposit, some of which I may get back when I move out.
Okay, which I might. Which I might
get back.
Good.
Which.
No, I hear which. It's which.
Which.
Good.
The apartment has 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a living room, and a kitchen. It also has a small utility room where I keep my washer and dryer.
Washer.
Where I keep my washer and dryer.
Washer.
Where I keep my washer. Right before I move it in. The landlord put in a new carpet and had the walls painted, so it looked like a new place.
Looks.
Oh, yes. So it looks like a new place. The rent is £650 a month.
$650.
The rent is $605 $650 a month.
Good.
Not including utilities. I pay about $100 for gas.
$100 with an S. $100.
$100 for gas, electricity, water, sewage, and internet service.
Sewage. Good.
Unfortunately, the apartment complex doesn't allow pets, so my dog has to stay with my parents for now.
Allow.
Doesn't allow pets. I might get a roommate at some point to share expenses, but I haven't decided on that yet. The place looks a little empty because it isn't furnished, but for the time being, I only have the basics: a bed, a table, a small sofa in the living room, and a TV. It's not as livable and cozy as my parents' place, but I will have to do for now.
Okay, that's livable and but it.
Livable.
Okay, let me read once and then we'll discuss the article.
Yeah.
Last month, I decided to move out of my parents' place and start living on my own. I want you to listen to the way that I read. Your reading is fine, Bernard, but if you let the punctuation guide you, it will be even more fluent. Usually when I get to a comma, I will pause for maybe 2 seconds or so. I'm going to pause for 2 seconds. When I get to a period, I pause for about 3. Last month, 1, 2, I decided to move out of my parents' place and start living on my own. 1, 2, 3. I searched in the newspaper for apartment listings and found a place not too far from my work. 1, 2, 3. The landlord showed me around the apartment. 1, 2. And because it suited my needs, 1, 2. I signed the rental agreement and paid a deposit. 1, 2. Some of which I might get back when I move out. 1, 2, 3. The apartment has 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a living room, and kitchen. It also has a small utility room where I keep my washer and dryer. Right before I moved in, the landlord put in new carpet and had the walls painted. So it looks like a new place. The rent is $650 a month, not including utilities. I pay about $100 for gas, electricity, water, sewage, and internet service. Unfortunately, the apartment complex doesn't allow pets, so my dog has to stay with my parents for now. I might get a roommate at some point to share expenses, but I haven't decided on that yet. The place looks a little empty because it isn't furnished, but for the time being, I only have the basics. A bed, 1, 2, a table, 1, 2, a small sofa in the living room, 1, 2, and a TV, 1, 2, 3. It's not as livable and cozy as my parents' place, but it will have to do for now. All right. So there we both have read. I pointed out words that you need to focus on for fluency and pronunciation. Do you have questions?
No, it looks like the the search of my grandchild 1 month ago when he go to Paris for his job, and during the 2 weeks he searched for an apartment and could exactly write write this kind of text. It was exactly that,
Uh-huh.
unless the apartment is very very tiny, very teeny,
Tiny.
only one room, and
Oh.
all in the same room. 18 square meters only,
Mhm.
and it's in the center in Paris, and it costs 754 euro each month.
How many people will be living in this one room?
Only my grandchild.
Oh, that's
Only my grandson, because it's his first apartment
uh-huh.
and his first job. He,
Oh,
wo- he works for free. The
okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, if it's only one person, it is doable. I remember when I was much younger and living on my own, I had rented what is considered the same as your nephew. It's an efficiency. You could open up a door, and your bed could fold out, you close the door, and the bed goes back up, and the door closes. The kitchen, the front room, the living area, everything was just one big open space.
Okay.
But it was enough. It was enough for me.
Okay.
All right. Do you have any questions about the vocabulary in this?
No, I understood. I understand every word.
All right. So let's look down here at the discussion and tell me. Now, I'm just talking about where you live now. You've explained what it was like for your nephew, but is it pretty much the same where you're living? No, if you were renting an apartment or a house, would it be the same? Do you contact someone if there is a problem, or how do you? Well, let's just read this and see if you could answer based upon what is put here. What is the process of finding an apartment in your hometown? Can you contact the landlord directly, or do you go through a real estate agent? On average, how much does it cost to rent a one-bedroom apartment in your hometown? Are most apartments already furnished, or do you have to furnish it yourself?
Oh, I don't know exactly the answer for this question, but what I know is in my city, the prices of apartment to rent is expensive. Not as expensive as in Paris, of course, but I suppose that for one room, for a student, for example, in a furnished apartment, it could cost about 350 euro
Mm-hmm.
a month.
What is that?
About, I suppose.
Do you have any idea what that might equate to in US dollars, euros?
In US dollars,
Mm-hmm.
350 euros are about $300.
Okay. Well, that's fairly inexpensive, I would think. All right, let's take a look at number 4 and do a little role play. Since I know that you are much more than a young person living alone, you have a wife. But let's think about if you ever lived alone. Did you ever live alone?
No, never.
Okay, so let's just say then that we're trying to create a scenario about someone that you prefer not to live with. I don't want to choose you not living with your wife. Let's just say that your grandchildren are staying at your home for the entire summer, which I think they have. They've spent the summer after school was out that they came. Let's talk about some of the things that they did that was a little bit like, I'd rather you not do this. In this article, they talk about pizza boxes are everywhere. Tell me about situations when your young grandchildren come to visit you that doesn't bring you great pleasure.
It's the part 4, I suppose.
Yes, part 4.
Yes. First, I'm going to read for myself. You have lived with your roommates for 6 months, but you decide to move out because they haven't taken care of the place. Pizza boxes tossed everywhere, dirty socks on the kitchen table, and a pet snake loose somewhere in the sofa. Tell your partner about your current situation and then explain what kind of place you're looking for. And your question is to imagine that my grandson live in my house for a few months before to find an apartment for himself. And the cohabitation between us, the grandparents, and he, the grandson. I suppose that it depends of the grandson. Some of my grandsons are very well educated by their parents, and they try to take care of the property of others, even their grandparents. Others grandsons are more relaxed and have different habits about the life they conduct in their apartment's home. Some of them use.
So tell me, So tell me, and we'll talk in dialogue form, the one that does everything in a good way, what are some things that you would like to say to this person? Remember, this is a dialogue between you and I, so you must say something, wait for me to respond, then you respond, and I respond. So do not talk too long before you allow me to say something. So Bernard, tell me a little about the nephew that really is conscientious and careful and takes care of your things, his things, and perhaps the things of his parents.
Yeah, my grandson lived in my house for a few time, and he was very conscientious and take care of the house as it was his own house.
Can you tell me, Bernard, what is one thing that stands out in your mind that your grandson did that was very impressive? When you say he took care of things, give me an example of what did he take care of? What did he do? An example might be when dinner was served, he removed the dishes from the table and washed the dishes.
Okay. The last week during the vacation, the oldest of the five youngest who stay home
Mm-hmm.
is my grandson, and he was very helpful every time we have a meal.
Mm-hmm.
After the meal, he took all the dishes and put them in the dishwasher.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. What about one who is the least conscientious? What is one thing that you would have liked to have that relative do without your having to ask?
Uh, Sometimes I went in the garden to put out the weeds, the bad grass.
Mm-hmm.
I I had expected that my grandson came near me to help me, but usually he didn't like that.
And I prefer he stay indoors, maybe played with his computer gadgets or watch television.
Yes, sure.
All right.
But,
So you said that when you had went, I believe, but I went outside, or when I went outside, that would be the correct way to say. When I went outside, I thought my grandson or my grandchild would help, but he did not. Okay. That was just a little grammar tidbit there. All right, let's take a look at one more thing. And let me get my mouse. And could you read part 5?
yes. Suppose you're planning on moving to a major city in the United States, and you have to find a two-bedroom apartment for you and your small family, your spouse, and two small children ages 7 and 4. You have a limited budget of under $800 a month for both rent and all utilities. Search the internet for an apartment in the city of your choosing and report on the place to find.
You find.
You find. Be sure to prioritize your reason for choosing the place.
Okay, that's prioritize.
Prioritize your reason for choosing the place.
Okay, so now what I'd like for you to do, Bernard, the place that you are currently living, okay, where you and your wife are currently living, I want you to tell me, how did you find the place that you're living in now? Why did you choose this? Why did you choose the place that you're living?
Yeah.
And is it within your budget to live where you live? Now, it may sound something like this.
Okay.
I chose, but I'll tell you why I chose. I chose the place where I live because it was affordable, and it was on a bus route. When I initially moved there, I did not have transportation. So I wanted to be close to the bus stop and be able to move about easily within the city. I have neighbors on either side of me, so my neighborhood is good. The rent, well, I don't rent, I own. The property was affordable. For this reason, I bought it. Okay, so tell me about your house. How did you come to select the house that you have?
My house is an isolated house in a condominium area. We are about one of the 18 houses in the condominium.
Mhm.
We choose this house
We chose
because
this house.
we chose this house because it's not long from the center of the town, at about only 2 kilometers. It's near a bus station,
Mhm.
so it's easy to go to the city. And more than that, the bus is free in my city.
Ah, interesting.
Yes, and the how when we choose this house, we choose it because it's a small house, about 100 square meters. The kitchen and the living room are downstairs, so in the summer, if we open the door of the kitchen, we can heat outside under a tree,
Mhm.
under a cherry tree.
Mhm.
There's a lot of sun, and it's a quiet area.
Okay.
And when we enter in the house, we have a, in French we say le coup de foudre. We really have a shock. We were lured by the house, and we chose it in only a few, in half an hour it was decided.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. I appreciate hearing how you came upon the place that you're living and the investigation that you did before making that choice. I will stop the recording now.